Hiya, Anthea here. I just wanted to share some thoughts around challenges. Now, have heard the word challenge come up quite a lot actually in the last couple of weeks, which kind of got me thinking about what are challenges, right? So most people look at challenges as things that we may need to overcome. It's a problem that has arisen. It's something that is preventing our ability to move forward. There's something that was unexpected and now it's a challenge that I have to deal with, or a problem that I have to deal with. So what I wanted to kind of give a different perspective of is what a challenge really is. So when I look at a challenge, I actually consider a challenge to be a question that you need to answer in that very moment, which will give you the opportunity to make a decision that will either allow you to progress or regress. Okay, so am I going to progress or am I going to regress based on the challenge that I'm facing? Now, the idea of using a question to answer what a challenge is that it actually just simplifies the process. It changes your focus. You no longer need to look at whatever problem has arisen or whatever challenge has come up in your life. You just need to focus on answering that question. Now, if I was going to regress, then essentially all I'm going to do is complain. This has happened to me. Why has this happened? Why were things going right, but now they're going wrong? Why does this always happen to me? And a lot of us get into that kind of negative mindset where we think that things are happening to us and that we can never catch a break, and we essentially look for the negative things, right? But what if you decided to progress? The challenge is here. What am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? So you start to look at the things that you can do. You start to wonder, is there somebody who's been through this? Is there somebody I can go to for advice? What resources do I have that could potentially help me to solve this? What could I possibly do right now to overcome this challenge? You can see quite easily just in those kind of examples that they're very different things. Do I want to progress or do I want to regress? Now remember that by answering a question, you're making a choice, right? So the challenge has occurred. This is the moment where you may believe that something has happened to you and that's not in your control. But when you answer this question, do I want to progress or do I want to regress? You now take back that control. You take back the power in what happens next. If you decide that you want to regress, essentially you're going to pause life. And that is the simplest form of that. You will pause life because actually nothing else can move forward until you've either gotten through all of these negative thoughts around whatever it is that you're feeling in that moment, and you have to a degree dwelled in that long enough to then decide that something has to happen for this challenge to be overcome, and then you go into action. So until you start getting into action, nothing else is happening, therefore life has essentially been paused. But if you choose to progress, then what you're doing is you're becoming more resourceful. So this can only benefit you because you're going to tap into things that you never really realized that you had access to, whether they are internal or external. The example I gave about, asking someone else for advice, finding out who might have been through this and how did they get through it? How can I try that? How can that apply to me? What can I do? All of these things force you to take action. And in those moments that you take action, it changes you. You grow, you progress. So you may not feel all the time like you're progressing in life, but things are happening so that you can progress in who you are. You could be learning new skills, you could be building connections, you can identify ideas that maybe would have never seen the light of day if you never had this challenge arise. Now, I'm not saying that this negates the fact that some of these challenges are really testing, But what I'm trying to offer you is just a slightly different perspective to say, let's look at this in a different way. Do I want to progress or do I want to regress? And that is definitely a choice that you have full control over. Now, I want to give you just an example of how this even showed up in my own life. So I think it was a couple of years ago, I had a guy in a job that I was working in who was a complete nightmare, just an absolute nightmare. The kind of nightmare that you go home and you tell everybody about. You know, it's like, I can't go through this nightmare alone. I'm going to phone a friend. I'm going to message anyone who is online at this moment and tell you about how much this man is causing me problems, right? And I had those moments. I was just like, why is this happening to me? I've dealt with some difficult people, but woo, this man was testing my last nerve, right? So then after a while, you know, I prayed on it. Like, I was literally like, God, please, because I don't understand why this is happening. And when I realized that I was kind of putting myself in a victim mode, I decided that in that moment, that was when I was going to look at things differently. So the idea at that point was to now look at, what can I do? Now, this person was always trying to undermine me, always came with a kind of aggressive, I want to go into war type of attitude. And so I remember always changing the attitude, because my perception was that every time we had an interaction, there would always be this negativity. So what I started to do was just genuinely be more positive. I start to have more kind of positive thoughts about the interaction and, you know, change the types of questions that I would ask, and just genuinely think that this man is obviously going through something and I'm the punching bag, which is not ideal. And although we've tried to talk about it and it's not really been resolved, this is the situation that I'm in. So what can I do? And I started to think about all of these different ways, becoming more positive, having conversations with other people to say, how have you dealt with, you know, workplace issues and all of that kind of thing. And so I chose to progress, right? Because in the moments where every week I had to deal with this person, life literally stopped, because I met him on a Wednesday and I can't actually remember what happened between the time that I left that meeting room and the time that it was time to go back into that meeting room. It felt like life had stopped, and it was just this thing, this challenge that I was focused on. So the idea of me now choosing to progress meant that I had to become more resourceful. And after a while, his attitude changed. He was less, he undermined me a lot less. He came in a lot more positive. He shared things about himself personally. And he even said positive things about me while I was in the room, which he'd never used to do. So it just enabled me to make, you know, the best out of the situation and make some changes. So by choosing to progress, I can affect how other people are around me. I can affect how I am with other people. I can impact essentially the world, because if he is a happier person, the people that he surrounds himself will feel that level of happiness and maybe don't need to tread on eggshells, and things can be better in his life. So there are little things that we can do just by overcoming our own challenges that have a ripple effect that improves the lives of others. So again, just coming back to this whole thing is what are challenges? Challenges are opportunities. It's a simple question that you need to answer to determine whether or not you want to progress or to regress. And in the story that I just shared, progression was definitely something that occurred, because my ability to deal with conflict when it came later on was a lot better. I was able to nip certain things in the bud. And when conflict did arise, I was able to manage it without getting too stressed or anxious or anything like that. So although that situation really felt trying and testing and all of that kind of thing, the longer I stayed in the regress mode, the pausing of life, the woe is me, the why is this happening and all of that kind of stuff, you know, it didn't benefit anybody. In fact, it just fed the negativity, it fed the challenge, and the challenge felt a lot bigger to overcome. But as soon as I decided that I'm going to progress, whatever that looks like, right? Whatever comes out of this, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to take some kind of action that is going to move me forward. And by doing that, I will benefit in some way. That's what happened. And that's how I was able to progress. And that is how you can overcome challenges. By not focusing on the problem, but answering the simple question, do you want to progress or do you want to regress? So, do let me know what you think about this. Have you found situations where you have actually chosen to regress rather than progress? And if you're now going to start thinking about what you do from today, right? Because there's no point dwelling in the past. All of that has happened. When you next face a challenge, just stop yourself for a moment. Think about that question. What is that challenge? It's a question. Do I want to progress or do I want to regress? And I'm sure that you will choose progress each and every time. And by choosing progress every time, it means you're moving. It means you're doing something. It means you're getting to be a better version of yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and I will be seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.